Welcome to T-News 9 channel. Today, we're diving into Chapter 66 of The Cases That Wait, titled The Record. Records don't prove crimes, they prove patterns. She never planned to show it to anyone. The notebook stayed tucked away in her bag, thin, unlabeled, and easy to forget. It was just a brief, strange encounter she had jotted down to process. Weeks passed, and life went on. Then, she read an article. It was about another woman at another bus stop who received another offer of help. The city was different, but the details were chillingly familiar. The same pause after the offer, the same unsettling feeling. She pulled out her notebook, her hands slightly trembling. She compared her own notes to the story in the article. The time of day, the specific wording used, the way a simple no didn't immediately end the interaction. A knot formed in her stomach. It wasn't fear, not exactly. It was recognition. She realized she wasn't alone in noticing this strange behavior. That realization mattered more than anything. Taking a deep breath, she decided to email the reporter. She kept her message simple, not making accusations or being overly dramatic. She just presented the information. "I didn't file a report," she wrote, "but I wrote it down." The response came a day later. It was short and careful, but one sentence stood out, changing everything. "You're not the first to say that." Through the reporter, she was connected to a private, informal support group. It was filled with women who, like her, hadn't been physically harmed, but hadn't been left untouched either. They weren't there to share dramatic stories. They were there to share notes. They meticulously compared details, bus stops, parking garages, the exact phrases used, words like help, waiting, safety. The record began to grow, a collection of data without names or photos, but with an undeniable alignment. Patterns don't need faces to exist. Someone in the group suggested contacting the authorities, but another hesitated. Official forms require certainty, a clear crime. This was something else, something that existed in the gray area. It wasn't quite a crime, not yet, but records have a unique gravity. They pull attention slowly, patiently, until eventually, they pull it in the right direction. She decided to print out her notes and place them in an envelope. Not to send them, at least not right away, but to be ready. Because some evidence doesn't shout for attention. It accumulates, quietly, persistently, building a case one detail at a time. She didn't have definitive proof of a crime. She had alignment. Chapter 67 of The Cases That Wait, titled The Connection. Patterns don't announce themselves. They wait to be recognized. The email wasn't flagged. No urgency tag. No legal language. Just a forwarded message with an attachment. It contained notes, dates, and phrases that were repeated too precisely to be a coincidence. I almost archived it. I almost just put it away. But something about the wording stopped me. It wasn't fear that I felt. It was a sense of familiarity. So, I opened the attachment. I scrolled once, then I scrolled again. I noticed the pause in the writing, the offer of help, the waiting. I'd seen it before. Different file, a closed file, a case we all thought was finished. I pulled open the old drawer, the one I never labeled. I laid the new notes side by side with the old ones. The handwriting was different, but the structure was the same. C patterns don't need intention to exist. They just need repetition. And this one had it. I didn't move right away. Making a connection like this isn't about excitement. It's a moment of stillness. It's the moment your body finally confirms what your mind was hoping wasn't true. I decided to contact the reporter who sent the email. I asked careful questions, no accusations, just trying to find alignment, to see if our stories matched up. She answered with restraint, very carefully. This wasn't her first time dealing with something like this. It never is. By the end of our call, the room felt smaller. Not because it was crowded, but because everything was becoming focused. I opened a new folder on my computer. I didn't label it as a case. I called it a watch file, temporary, off the books. For now, connections don't always force immediate action, but they justify paying attention. And attention, when you sustain it long enough, eventually becomes intervention. I closed the physical drawer. This time, I labeled it. The case wasn't reopened. It was reconnected. Chapter 68 of The Cases That Wait, titled The Watch File. Not every investigation announces itself with a bang. Some just watch, quietly. This file didn't trigger any alerts. There were no warrants, no formal interviews, just eyes. Names were added to it, but not as suspects. There were points of interest, bus stops, local cafes, libraries. These were our observation posts. places where waiting looks perfectly normal. I didn't assign anyone to this case officially. Why? Because official attention creates ripples, and this investigation required absolute stillness. The reports came in slowly, detailing observations, not incidents. A man sitting at a table for far longer than necessary. Someone offering help that was never asked for. Leaving only after a refusal became firm and unmistakable. None of it was chargeable, nothing you could take to a judge, but it was all so familiar. The hardest cases to crack live in that murky space between concern and crime. I read every single note, comparing the language used. The same phrases kept surfacing over and over again. I can wait, take your time, no pressure. It was pressure disguised as patience. So, we logged it. The timestamps were crucial because waiting always has a duration, and in that duration, patterns begin to form. One officer eventually asked when we were going to make a move. I didn't answer right away. If you act too early, you just teach the patterns to adapt and change. Watching lets them fully reveal themselves. The file grew, not necessarily thicker, but clearer. This wasn't a case of escalation. It was about consistency. And consistency is something that courts understand. Late one evening, a new entry came in. A different location, but the same distinctive pause in behavior, the same exact words. That's when the file crossed a line. It wasn't a legal line, but a logical one. I marked the file. No sirens, no frantic calls. Just a single note I added to the cover. Ready. They weren't waiting for a crime to happen. Chapter 69 of the Cases That Wait, titled, The Moment It Shifted. Patterns hold true, until they suddenly don't. It was an almost imperceptible change, a tiny detail, but that's precisely what made it so significant. We'd been observing him for weeks, and the routine was always the same. He'd pick the same type of location, operate within the same time window, and always start with that same offer of help. But this time, something was different. This time, he didn't wait. Not completely. After the woman said no, he stepped closer. He didn't touch her, just closed the distance between them. 2 steps. The officer on surveillance logged it immediately. Now, 2 steps aren't a crime, so the officer didn't intervene. Not yet, but those 2 steps were a clear deviation from his established pattern. It's often said that patterns break right before people do. The woman, sensing the shift, moved away. Her movement was clear and deliberate. He followed her with 1 step, then stopped. That pause was noticeably shorter than in previous encounters. Impatience had finally entered the equation. I went back and read the surveillance report twice. I wasn't looking for new details. I was listening for the rhythm. The nature of his waiting had changed. It was no longer patient and calculated. Now it was strained, tense. People who crave control don't handle delays well, especially when they feel entitled to a certain outcome. We reviewed all the previous field notes. They all told the same story. He would always wait until the refusal felt absolutely final before backing off. But this time, a simple no wasn't enough for him. Something fundamental had shifted in his behavior. This wasn't quite an escalation into violence, but it was an exposure. He was testing the boundaries, seeing if his old method of pausing and waiting still worked. It didn't. His control was slipping. Our team convened quietly. There was no need for an emergency meeting or to plan a raid. This was about getting everyone on the same page, about alignment. The subject's watch file was immediately updated. His status changed from simple observation to active containment. We didn't make any big announcements or change our public posture. We just began to prepare. Because the moment a predator's pattern fails, they're forced to try something new. And that is the precise moment when watching from the sidelines becomes a deep responsibility to act. He changed the rhythm of the game. So, we changed our response. Chapter 70 of the Cases That Wait, titled The Intervention. Intervention isn't reaction, it's prevention with witnesses. We didn't wait for a crime. That was the decision we made. Quiet, unanimous. The plan was simple. 2 officers in plain clothes, and 1 social services liaison. No uniforms, no sirens, nothing to escalate the situation. We knew where he'd be. He was at the cafe, sitting in the same seat by the same window, just waiting. When they approached his table, he looked up calmly. He wasn't startled. If anything, he looked relieved. Maybe being noticed was the entire point all along. "Can we talk?" one of them asked. The tone was neutral, making it clear it was his choice. He nodded. That small gesture mattered a lot. Outside, the conversation remained measured. They didn't accuse him of anything. Instead, they described what they had observed, the times, the places, the specific words he'd used online. They presented facts and patterns, not their interpretations. His expression shifted not to anger, not to fear, but to genuine confusion. "But I didn't do anything," he said. He was correct. "That's why we're here," the liaison replied gently. She then spoke about boundaries, about consent. She explained how a constant presence can become a form of pressure, especially when it never goes away. He listened. He really listened. It's amazing how people respond when you hold up a clear mirror to their actions. They laid out the next steps for him: documentation of the incident, certain restrictions, and mandatory counseling. There would be no charges filed. Not yet, but there would be clarity. The kind of clarity that removes any ambiguity about what is and isn't acceptable. He only had one question: "Am I in trouble?" "No," they told him. "But you were close." Close is such a powerful word. It leaves room for a person to make a different choice. They walked away without handcuffs, and the situation wasn't completely resolved. But a line had been drawn where only silence used to be. Later that day, I updated the file. I marked the status as intervened, not resolved, not closed, but altered. Because sometimes, the best ending is the one where the worst-case scenario never has to happen. No one was arrested. Everyone was protected. Thanks for watching T-News 9. If you enjoyed this chapter, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories from the cases that wait.